if you're just a little different, they're not much, like they think like, they would assume like we don't have much in common, so therefore why should I, get to know that person. I think I've accepted it a long time ago that it's part of life, it's part of my life, and it's gonna be there.
I am treated differently, and it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me because I rationalize how people think. It's not their fault. They were born with a bit of racism, I should say, but that's how the world is. And the way to be successful and get around that is to understand and accept how people think and not be angry at them, but basically do better than them and stay away from the negative people.
Now, how does that affect your business?
It affects the business. The Jake's Barbecue Restaurant, which is a barbecue restaurant, it's an all-American style restaurant. It's people want to blend in with a traditional type of cuisine, which is ribs and chicken, all-American type of food fare. And when they see an Oriental, a Chinese person trying to make the food for them, first they're a little bit skeptical. They don't want to come into your place because they have already visualized beforehand that there would be, for example, black or white people working in the restaurant rather than an Asian. But some of them walk out, they don't like it, but others who have tasted the food and have come to the restaurant appreciate the experience.
My experience with them was positive, but I've had feedback from others that looked at them and said, oh, they're terrible. We had to worry about, especially when it was the Italian people, we had to watch out for the mafioso and that sort of thing, and they had this cultural, I guess, mindset that the Italians were always, especially if they came from Sicily, they were the bad ones. But these are the people that helped build what we're using today, and at the time, they were helping build up the community, although they may have received a bad price. But I never had any problems with the people that were immigrants. My friend Joe that lived across the street, his parents came from Italy, and Joe and I were closest of friends, and as a matter of fact, it was in his kitchen that I was introduced to this wonderful meat called bologna. And I learned about, Italian cuisine.
I think in my very specialized major, which is animation, I really don't think that would matter, and if anything it would help, because people like stories, and if it's different, if it's like slightly different, or if someone can see themselves in that situation, like, I know if I make any story just telling people how I grew up as a Dominican, and it's very Dominican-like, and I wake up and I eat plátanos, and I go to sleep and I eat plátanos, people are going to connect to that, so it would help me, it wouldn't hurt me.
When I was much younger, I was asked to go to the back of the bus with all the rest of the black people. The black people had to go to the very end of the bus. The Chinese people had to go to 3/4 of the end of the bus, and only the white Irish people in the suburbs were allowed to sit close to the bus driver. And it probably had a nice effect on me, that the only way to get even is to have the last laugh, and basically what you do is you become more successful than the other person, and there's nothing they can't even touch you after that. And it's all within the means of the law. And I think that I set a good example for other people in the way that, in my rationale of thinking, to beat or get ahead of other people who want to look down upon other races as being inferior because they're here in America and we're trespassing. Well, that's not really true. The world is only one place. Just because we're separated by water doesn't mean that we're all in the same situation. It's one planet. People set up fences to keep other people out. Fences were meant to be torn down.
You know, I used to hear a lot of stories from my grandparents who were immigrants from Eastern Europe, and so I guess, you know, even though it's now 2 generations away from me, they came through New York and settled in New York, and I always just felt very identified, like everybody in their world was an immigrant, and that just seems like the norm to me. There's nobody here who's not an immigrant, unless you're Indian. So, I mean, a Native American Indian. So, yeah. So I just think it's kind of an easy place to try to lay blame, but it actually, immigrants are not the source of the problems that we